Hello and welcome to this week's video. Dark reference photos look simple at first, less colour, less distraction, but they're often the hardest to paint. When your values are compressed, everything starts to merge together and value alone can't create separation anymore. So how do you bring structure and clarity back into a dark painting? In this video, we'll break down the key tools that make all the difference. I will use this recent animal commission to help illustrate my points. Let's jump straight in. Number 1, what is a low-key painting? Before we get into the painting, I want to explain what low-key actually means. Low-key painting simply means a painting where the majority of the values sit in the dark range. Most of the canvas is in shadow. The light are limited and the overall mood is dark and atmospheric. If you do a lot of commissions like I do, sometimes you are presented with tricky reference photos, and knowing how to paint them is key rather than refusing and asking for another photo. Sometimes this is not always practical, especially where you are dealing with 2 dogs. You have to make it work. The mood that a low-key painting creates is something that a bright, colourful painting simply cannot achieve, a sense of atmosphere that draws the viewer in. These 2 dogs under a blanket are a perfect example of the subject that calls for a low-key treatment. Understanding that you are working within a deliberately narrow value range from the start changes how you approach every single decision in the painting. Number 2, the challenge of separated values in a dark range. The central challenge of a low-key painting is that your values are compressed into a very narrow dark range, and the value alone simply cannot do the job of creating separation and form. You might have only 2 or 3 steps between many of your values, and that is nowhere near enough on its own to describe 2 dogs, a blanket, fur, texture and depth. So you have to bring in other tools to compensate, and those tools are temperature, edges, and the colour within your darks. Number 3, temperature. So let's talk about temperature, because in a low-key painting it becomes your most important tool for creating separation and variety within a compressed value range. When you cannot rely on value to separate things, temperature is what does the job. A warm dark next to a cool dark will read as 2 different things, even if they are almost exactly the same value. This is a really important principle to understand. Temperature contrast can replace value contrast in a dark painting, and used well, it is just as powerful. Those temperature shifts are what allow the eye to read the painting and understand what it is looking at. Without them, everything would merge into one dark mass. The rule is still the same as in any painting. Warm light creates cool shadows, cool light creates warm shadows. But in a low-key painting, you have to be even more deliberate and conscious about applying this because the shifts are so subtle. Training your eye to see temperature first in a dark subject can be quite hard. I recommend holding a grey card up to your subject matter. Ask yourself if you can see red, yellow or blue. If it is blue, it can only be blue, blue-purple or blue-green. If it is red, it can only be red, red-orange or red-purple. If it is yellow, it can only be yellow, yellow-green or yellow-orange. Number 4, edges. If your temperature is your most important tool for separation in a low-key painting, edges run a very close second. An edge is simply where one area of your painting meets another, and in a low-key painting, how you handle that meeting point is important. There are 3 types of edges: a hard edge, a soft edge, and a lost edge. Because the values are so close together, you'll find you get a lot of soft lost edges. So where you have strong value contrast, you are best off going for a hard edge to give visual impact and focus to your painting. Number 5, what I see in the reference photo. Here is the reference photo I have worked with. I have a very narrow value range. If I turn the photo into black and white, you'll see what I mean. My temperatures are also not that obvious. For example, here is very black with some brown. Here I'm seeing brown with a bit of orange, and here I'm seeing blue. Therefore, I need to implement a lot of what I know works in standard oil painting. My dog on this side is not particularly warm. It is warmer but brown, but not as strong and punchy as this orange. If I choose a really warm black, this will help offset this area. I also have some warmer oranges on the dog's face. If I push my blanket blue, this will really help my colours pop. For my edges, I need to be mindful of using softer edges in these areas here and here, but I can use harder edges around the dog's faces, particularly the second one where I have my biggest value change. The hard edges will help focus the eye onto the dogs. Number 6, my palette. Let's now have a look at my palette. I am using cadmium yellow light, yellow ochre light, transparent yellow oxide, cadmium red, alizarin crimson, transparent red oxide, burnt umber, ultramarine and titanium zinc white. I have also mixed up a few other colours, a black red and a black green. When I mix these two together, they give me my rich black, a purple, 2 oranges and another green that leans blue. For this rug area, I am using my rich black, but I am pushing it red. This will give me a very warm dark black. Where it gets lighter, I shift my temperature with this green plus white plus burnt umber. The white and the green control the cool shift. Without the brown, it is too cool. I have chosen my brown because I know it pairs well with ultramarine. For the blanket area, I have actually introduced ivory black to my palette, and I have mixed my blue with my black to give me those dark sections. Blue and orange are opposite colours. When you place them next to each other, they pop. This helps elevate my dog out of the painting. Notice how I have added some warmth into my blanket using my alizarin crimson plus some of my orange. I've just mixed it into my blue black. For this area up here, I have used these 2 blacks mixed together plus white. For my dogs, I have started with burnt umber as my base colour. Where my temperature is cooler, I add this green plus white. Where my area is warmer, I can either use my burnt umber on its own or I can add either of these 2 oranges. I am using my 2 blacks to control my dark values. For my lighter values, I have to be careful if I am dealing with a warm or a cool temperature. For a cooler temperature, I can use my white. For a warmer temperature, I will use either of my oranges or my cadmium yellow light or my yellow ochre light. So what I have actually painted is an area that is very warm, less warm, cooler. This gives me an obvious shift. To sum up then, understand your reference photo and be prepared to depart from the actual colours you see. When your value range is narrow, you will have to rely on your palette to help you. Use temperature, warm and cool to define the areas of your painting. Use edges to help focus the eye on important areas. Your darks should never be mixed from one black alone. Use complementaries for high impact. If you would like to come and paint with me in oils, join my workshop on the 3rd of July. You'll find the link in the description below. There are also more details of lesson opportunities on my website, sarahhallidayart.com. If you found this video helpful, hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss future painting tips. Thank you for watching and see you next week.